Today we're going to do a quick demonstration on seed saving from tomatoes. So some basic things to think about when you're saving seeds is whether the tomato plants have been isolated from other varieties. The recommended distance is about 10 feet or more. Also, double check that you're not saving seeds from something that might possibly be diseased or something like this. Anything with blemishes, I tend to just set to the side and use those for fresh eating, rather than actually saving seeds from them. So this one is a yellow stuffer tomato. It's a little bit different than others, but it's kind of a fun one because you're actually supposed to scoop it out and stuff the tomato. And these ones are a little bit smaller than the others. So I just scoop out the seeds. There are bigger yellow stuffer tomatoes, but the first ones that came ripe were very small. So they look like this, and then you put your stuffing in them or whatever. And then these ones are a speckled Roman paste tomato, and I just really like the color on these. So again, these ones I actually will slice in half in order to save the seeds from them. And you'll see on the inside strings of seeds. You just slip them into the jar. Like so. And then you have the seeds kind of saved out of it. You can cut them into quarters if you want instead of halves, because that will reveal more seeds on the inside. Some people I know, if you're doing this in really large quantities and don't care for the fruit itself, they will just throw the entire tomato straight in the pot and ferment it. But I like to use the tomato itself, the meat of the tomato, for other things. So I sit here and pick the seeds out. So this is kind of what it will look like when you're all done. There's no seeds left. Well, there's a seed or two, but we're not being picky. And just throw it in the pot, keep going. Once you have enough, you'll be able to move on to the next step. I try to get seeds from as many different tomatoes as possible. So it's not super important that you get every last seed out of every last tomato, but it is important to get seeds out of as many tomatoes as possible for that genetic diversity. I'll post a link with this video to the seedsavers.org guide, and that will tell you all about how many you'll need from each individual to maintain genetic diversity. So, how many different seeds are you going to want to, or how many seeds from different plants or different individual plants are you going to want to save for genetic diversity? So I'll post that. So when you're all done, you'll have a big puddle of goo like this, just the inside guts of your tomato. And it's just a big old puddle. So you'll set that aside, just leave it on the counter, forget it for 3-4 days. When it's all done, you're going to have a pile of nasty gross like this. That's actually a good thing. That's what you're going for. So you can use gloves if you feel like that's too gross. So we're going to add a bunch of water and just kind of mix the seeds around. So this fermentation process will have, well, actually, maybe I should show you some of the before stage again. Notice that if I get like a seed here, it's like coated in this goo. And most people, many people, will just stick this to a paper towel straight up, and that's okay. But if you want them to look like they came from the seed company, and you don't want like goo or a paper towel stuck to it, this next thing that I'm showing you is how to do that. So we just mixed them around. Now I'm going to pour off all of the pulp and the other stuff that went with the seeds. And you can see now that all those seeds are actually like in the bottom of this, and it's just a jar full of seeds. The good seeds sink to the bottom. Everything else that you pour off is just nasty water that's like fermented tomato. So now, at this stage, I'm probably gonna mix it around a little bit just to kind of like make sure that there's not, you know, just to kind of agitate it. And then I will pour more water back in there. Kind of rinse my hand off into the jar because there's a lot of seeds stuck to my hand right now. And yes, I'm being careful for this demonstration to not mix seeds from one kind into the other for personal use, because I don't want this, which is a Golden King of Siberia tomato. It's not fully ripe, but when it is, it has streaks. It's really cool looking. To get mixed up with this little yellow stuffer or the pastes, you know, I want to know what I'm producing. So normally when I'm saving seeds, I'm not going to do 3 varieties at once. This is just for the demonstration. I would just do 1 variety so that I don't mix these seeds in with these seeds. So back to this, I've swished it around. This is fermented for a while. Pour off the extra gross water that's on top. And I might lose a couple of seeds as I'm pouring off this last little bit. But now that I've got that all out, get myself this big old plate and I'll pour this onto the plate. And you know what? Since water pours off of the plate as well, I'm just going to use this to swish out the last few seeds. And now I'll pat it around. Oh, you can't quite see this, can you? I just poured it onto the plate. They're all on here. Kind of patting it around so that the seeds are evenly distributed. Sort of. We'll see if I can kind of maintain that then as I pour water off. So if you decide to you know, save seeds from your tomatoes that are this year and maybe they weren't isolated, probably not the end of the world, because tomatoes are self-pollinating. That's why you can even plant them as close as 10 feet apart. Some things, you can use those little organza bags from the dollar store, and those will, and put it over the flower bud before the flower opens, and that can kind of prevent cross-pollination. Or, you know, if you didn't get to that already and you have tomatoes and you really love them and you want to save the seeds, go ahead, try it this year. It may or may not be pure, but, you know, there's a good chance that you'll get that same awesome tomato again because, like I said, they're self-pollinating. They're not relying on bees or anything. So you can just go ahead and give it a shot and see what happens. Here's the finished product after I drained off all the water. Now all these seeds are just stuck to the plate. I'm going to let these air dry, and in a couple of days I will come back to them and just pull the seeds off, and they'll be nice normal tomato seeds just like you would get out of the package from like Burpee or Fairy Morse or something. So there you go. Have fun.